Yo, book nerds. Today I want to kind of go back in time. I believe it was the second video I ever made on my channel. The second video was about the Jabberwocky poem by Lewis Carroll, which appears in Through the Looking Glass. And I love this poem. The reason I want to talk about it today is because I tried something with my sixth graders and I just want to share it in case any other teachers out there would like to try it. So my sixth graders, they just took their unit test and it took us about a day and a half to get through this unit test. So they were feeling the burnout. And day two, it was actually Halloween and it was a Friday. So I needed a fun activity to do with them for that second half of class because they were checked out. They were done. They had worked hard the last day and a half. They needed something because it was Halloween, right? They were not going to be engaged, but I got them engaged. And so what I did, let me back up a little bit. We use the Study Sync curriculum for sixth grade, and in it, one of the Unit 1 lessons is on the Jabberwocky. Now, when I first saw that, I was like, no way would I ever teach this to sixth graders. No way, they will not understand it. It's too complex. When I was student teaching, I considered teaching it to 11th graders, and then I didn't because I thought it would be too hard. So I was like, no, I think I will skip the Jabberwocky. I'm not going to teach it to sixth graders. It'll just overwhelm them. But I am in a teacher group on Facebook. In that group one day, there was a post asking for recommendations for Halloween lessons and something to teach for Halloween. And you got the usual things like the Raven, the Telltale Heart, like Edgar Allan Poe, there was a few others that were thrown around, but one that surprised me was someone recommended the Jabberwocky. And I was like, again, no, why would you teach that to middle schoolers? Because this was a specific teacher group meant for middle school English teachers. So I was blown away again. I was like, why would you teach the Jabberwocky to sixth graders? And maybe they were seventh or eighth graders, but it made me stop and think. And so then when I was trying to find an activity to do for that second half of class on Halloween, I really took a moment and stepped back and was like, should I teach the Jabberwocky? What could we do with the Jabberwocky that would get them engaged, that wouldn't be overwhelming? It's in the curriculum. I wouldn't have to make up some extra assignments. So I was really thinking about it, and I looked at what Study Sync had, and I changed it a little bit from what they had for their lesson, but it ended up being really fun. So what we did was, after they finished their test, they had a little brain break for a couple minutes, and then I brought them back and I did a little author profile on Lewis Carroll, and a few people had heard of him. Not very many students knew who he was, so it was an introduction to an author, and most of my students in my class had either seen some adaptation of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or they've at least heard of it. So the fact that they knew some of Lewis Carroll's work and were familiar with that got them interested. They're like, oh wait, that story's that old? Lewis Carroll lived in the 1800s? The story is that old? It surprised them, and then they were interested. So then I found a video online on YouTube reading the Jabberwocky, and it had some pictures, some illustrations that go along with it. It was just really fun. So what I did was I dimmed the lights. It was dark in the room. It was a dark day, so it was very intense in these images, and they were riveted. They were just captured by it. And then afterwards, what I did was they had a copy of the Jabberwocky in their Study Sync workbooks. So I had them go through the poem. The poem is 71 words. I told them this. I said the poem is 71 words long and 43 of them are made up. They're nonsense. Lewis Carroll made these words up. And so then it was like a puzzle. I had them find the 43 nonsense words. They could work with a partner. So then it was like a little game, like a little puzzle. So it got really intense. Everyone was trying to figure out which words were real words, which words were like twas. We had this whole conversation about, is twas or is hast a word? Because they're not familiar with this old language. So it was really fun and intense. So they're trying to figure out, is that a word? Is this a made up word? What's this word? And they were circling words and highlighting words and trying to figure them out. And then after that, I had them create their own nonsense poem. So they could either use the made up words that Lewis Carroll made up, or they could make up their own words. And it was so much fun. I've never seen so many sixth graders engaged in writing poetry before. They were writing poems, they were sharing them with each other. We were laughing about how goofy they were. It was so much fun. And like this turned out way better than I ever thought. I have 30 kids in that class, and to see all of them engaged in an extremely difficult poem and then writing their own nonsense poem was incredible. It was one of those days, one of those moments that was like, this worked out so much better than I ever thought it would. And I think because I took the stress off of them needing to understand the Jabberwocky, that's why it worked for sixth grade. Like, because they watched it and there were images to help them understand the poem, we didn't need to like tease out meaning, but it was just a lot of fun. We had conversations about making up words and where words come from and how some of these words are now used today still. And Lewis Carroll just made them up. And so we talked about, if you don't have a word for something, can you just make up a word? And it was so interesting and just so much fun. I had students using slang words, like, you know, you hear these words all the time, like Rizzler and brain rot and 6-7, tralala. And so these students, some students were using those words in their poems. And to see them so engaged though, like, it was so much fun. I feel like a broken record because I'm just saying it again and again, but to see students actually wanting to write a poem and wanting to share it. I had students like say like, can I read mine to the whole class? Like, I didn't even have to ask them. They just were like, yeah, I want to share mine. I want to share mine. And they were sharing them with their friends. And it was great. It was such a perfect Halloween activity to do when they had just finished a test and they had no more brain. Like, they wanted to be done. And then to see them all be engaged and have this energy was wonderful. So I wanted to share this activity, and if you have sixth graders and wanted to give it a try, it was so fun. I love the Jabberwocky. I just adore this poem, and I never thought I could teach it to sixth graders. And just spur of the moment, I changed my mind, and I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna try it and see how it goes. And if I was right, if sixth graders are just not ready for the Jabberwocky, I will never teach it to sixth graders again. And man, was I wrong. I may do this for future sixth graders for sure. This activity was so fun. So anyway, if you've taught the Jabberwocky, I would love to hear how you have taught it to other age groups or to sixth graders. Did you do something similar, or did you do something completely different? I love this poem, so I just would love to share and hear what other people have done. Anyway, that is all that I have for you today. I hope you have a lovely week. I'll talk to you next Monday. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for talking books with me.